Oh my gosh, you guys, I can't believe it. I finally watched it. And I just want you all to know, I'll be right here. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Davey Deathray here with another installment of I Finally Watched It. And this time we're taking on a movie that for me is the movie you're embarrassed to admit that you haven't seen. You know how when you're talking to somebody and you're like, oh yeah, blah, 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 Star Wars, like they know what you're talking about. And they're like, oh, I haven't seen Star Wars. And you're like, Baga? Or something like Jaws or Back to the Future. I mean, there's so many where you sort of just expect that everyone has seen it, no matter what age they are or when they grew up. And for me, this is the one right here. This film came out in 1982, the same year I was born, and for no good reason, I've never seen it until now. We're talking about Steven Spielberg's classic, E.T. the Extraterrestrial. Real quick before we get going, please click that like button if you're enjoying what you're seeing so far, and why not hit the subscribe button as well? You can check out a bunch of our previous videos, and we've also really ramped up the content here. We're looking to make 2024 a big year for the channel, but we can't do it without you. So join us, won't you? Thank you. Now, E.T. tells the story of a young boy and his alien friend as they develop a very strong, unique bond shortly after meeting. Of course, there are forces in pursuit of E.T. for obvious reasons, and we find out if the family can not only keep him safe, but return him home. The film is directed by Steven Spielberg, and other than Hook, I think this is his only kids movie, but it's definitely enjoyable for people of all ages. Guys, I'm so happy that I finally sat down and watched this one. You know, I'm a big fan of so many of Spielberg's films. I mean, Jaws is my favorite film of all time, so shout out to Jaws right there. And it was really cool to put this one on the docket. I knew I wanted to make it one of my first episodes of I Finally Watched It. Because, yeah, like I said in the intro, it's one of those movies that so many times when I'm talking to people about film, it comes up and I have to, bite the bullet and tell them I've never seen it before, which, for being a big film fan and somebody that considers themselves, kind of like, as far as audience members go, a student of film, it's kind of embarrassing to have not watched E.T., but that's all over now. My biggest takeaways from the film are the acting and the music. Starting off with the acting, you have a lot of really good performances by younger kids in this film. I mean, Henry Thomas as Elliot just really knocks it out of the park. A lot of emotional moments performing with E.T., and if he doesn't work, then you're just not gonna buy it. And then you've got Drew Barrymore, who's really charming and funny, very natural. It makes me miss that time in the 80s where those movies that were centered around kids, the kids acted like kids, they said things that were a little off color or odd, but that's just the way kids are. For example, there's a scene early on in the film where Elliot calls his brother Mike penis breath, and I paused it and turned to my wife and was like, wow, penis breath? Couldn't say that in a kid's movie now. So it's kind of nice to see that. I harp on it all the time when I talk about film, even films that are like completely fantastical in the nature of their plot. I like when performances are true to life. And I almost forgot there's this really fun moment where Mike is coming home from football practice, I think, and he's singing a song while he's getting himself something to drink. And I'm sitting there thinking, I know this song. And it hits me. This is Elvis Costello. This is Accidents Will Happen. I love this song. And then I noticed the Elvis Costello poster on the wall in the bedroom, and I'm like, man, if somebody just told me, hey Davey, Elvis Costello is in that movie, I probably would have watched it a little earlier. And moving on to the music, I mean, what can you say? Another fantastic soundtrack by John Williams in a Steven Spielberg movie. It seems like this guy just doesn't have one dud in the bank. And just like the acting, if the music doesn't work here, I don't think the movie really works, because there are a lot of quiet moments as far as dialogue goes, a lot of significant looks and all the emotional moments. And if the music isn't working for you, and if it doesn't sell that moment or those moments, then you might just be bored or laugh instead of cry. And I gotta give it up to Melissa Matheson for writing such a great story. I've been thinking about the movie since watching it, letting it marinate and collecting my thoughts, and it just sort of dawned on me that I think that this movie is meant to teach kids about loss. There are heartbreaking moments, but you learn to accept things that, aren't exactly the way you want them, and even though every character doesn't get everything they want, there is a relatively happy ending. And of course, the film looks great. Spielberg always does a good job, knows where to put the camera, knows who to hire for every single job. I will say though, it's a little less remarkable than a lot of his other movies, and maybe that's because it was a kid's movie. It just seems to be, a lot easier to digest and not as dynamic as something like Jaws or Close Encounters of the Third Kind, but really fun nonetheless. I had a hell of a time with this movie. Having never seen it before, there were some things that shocked me. I did not expect to see, dried up grayish white E.T. literally like dying in a creek and then, being all hooked up to machinery in the hospital. I figured, just from like what I gathered, from people talking about the movie, I figured like maybe the government kidnapped him or maybe he was accidentally killed while they were trying to capture him. Really didn't expect it to reach the emotional heights that it did, but man, it really sucks you in, and this movie wants you to cry. So yeah, guys, I just wanted to, kind of flick through a few pictures here that I prepared. Nothing too crazy, but just, the classic shot of E.T. on the bike with Elliot and the boys as they're about to, take off and fly about. This is one of the effects that I thought looked kind of aged. Didn't look as good as the other effects, because I think a lot of the effects look really damn good. When E.T. makes like, I don't know if it's balls of like Play-Doh or something, fly in the air, I thought that looked really good. When he is constructing his phone basically to reach out to his people, and everything's kind of floating and getting put together with his mind, I thought that looked great. The spaceship, I really liked the design of the spaceship. Some really good matte paintings in the film as well, especially towards the beginning. So yeah, it's from 1982, and I was really impressed with how everything held up. Let's see here. Yeah, we have a great shot of Elliot and E.T. there. Really good lighting, really good framing in Spielberg's movies. It's just what he does. And the puppet, and I'm not sure, they must have put somebody in a suit during the bits where E.T. is walking, but I thought it was really well handled. Just that they didn't show him all the time. Sometimes he was obscured, especially in the beginning of the movie, so you might see him a little bit, but then the next time you see him, it's just a hand or something like that. I really like that kind of theater of the mind sort of thing, and it sort of reminded me of what made Jaws work so well, I think, is just not seeing the creature too much or too early. This moment here at the end of the film, I mean, turn on the waterworks. The music really pumps the emotion in this scene, and again, Henry Thomas as Elliot just really brings it. It seems like everything E.T. says, especially towards the end here, is just really poignant, and again, just a lesson about friendship and bonds, and that sometimes things can't last forever. Look at that adorable Drew Barrymore. What can you say about her performance here? She is hilarious and cute and charming, all that stuff. I think we got another one. Yeah, there she is with it's her and Dee Wallace. Man, more emotion here. I feel like every picture, when I looked up Dee Wallace E.T., every single picture she's crying. But she looks great. I can't believe one thing about the story. I can't believe. So the father left his 3 kids and his really, really attractive wife. Like, what's going on here? She seems to have it together. She's a good mom. She's got a job. She's keeping it all together. I'm like, why did this guy leave? What a jerk. Yeah, more Drew Barrymore when she first meets E.T. and freaks out, and then he freaks out as well. A lot of that sort of copying behavior that E.T. does at the beginning. And another thing that surprised me was that connection that Elliot and E.T. have. I had no idea that was part of the movie. And as it was going on, I was trying to figure out, like, does he see everything that E.T. sees? Is it just that he reacts when E.T. reacts? Is it a bond that's all the time? Like, how did that happen? Did E.T. hypnotize him? Is it from touch? I have no idea, but Probably have to watch the movie a few more times to really grasp the, the entirety of it. There we go. How could you leave her? How could you leave her? Got the kids here interacting with E.T. And then we've got C. Thomas Howell, and I had no idea that he was in this film. He's got just a little bit part. You see him at the beginning and you see him at the end, and other than that, he may be peppered in there like one or two other times, but you've seen him in Outsiders, Red Dawn. He is in this dreadful film called Soul Man that's just pretty rough on multiple levels, but yeah, really surprising to see him in here. I thought at first, I was like, is that Josh Brolin? And just because he looked so much like the way Josh Brolin's character looks in The Goonies a few years after this, or I think 4 years after this. So yeah, had no idea he was in here. The more you know. So yeah, guys, that is going to wrap it up for this episode of I Finally Watched It. Thank you so much for coming by. If you enjoy this kind of content, please leave a like and a comment. Let me know what you think of E.T. Let me know how ridiculous I am for waiting so damn long to watch this movie. Or you can totally rip it if it's not your thing. Whatever you got, put it in the comments. Let's get that conversation going. And why not hit that subscribe button and join us on this journey as well. Also, guys, let me know in the comments below what you want to see here on the channel. Maybe you've got a movie you want me to review, or a suggestion for a physical media show-off show, or even one of these I Finally Watched It episodes. If it's a movie I've seen before, I can put together a more scripted review, and if it's something I haven't seen yet, then yeah, we can feature it right here. Until next time, I've been and will continue to be Davey Deathray. Take care.